We'll go ahead and get started. Welcome to the Journal of Statistics and Data Science Education webinar for January. Hope everybody is enjoying being back after the break. Today, we're going to be talking with Shu-Min Liao, talking about Scratch to R towards an inclusive pedagogy for teaching coding. If you could move the slide ahead. I'm Lee Johnson. I'm the host. If you could move the slide ahead. I'm from Capital University, if you don't know me. Go ahead and move the slide there. So I always do a little bit of an introduction, just kind of keep you up to date on what's going on in the journal. If you hit the click, Shu-Min. There's a couple articles that just came out recently that you might find very useful. I know particularly for me, teaching an undergraduate regression course is on the docket in the near future. So Maria Tackett has a great article that she posted where she talks about what she did at Duke University. They did a flipped classroom thing, lots of great activities and materials that you could use. So feel free to check that out. There's also a great article that was just posted on the 12th, increasing student access and readiness for statistical competitions, which for those of us who are thinking about Data Fest, it's very timely. Talking about what they did at Wake Forest to kind of encourage students to sign up for this and make them feel more comfortable with the format, especially if they didn't have as much statistical background as some. If you want to hit the click there, just so you know, it's coming up with the webinars. It's not technically a cause webinar, but there is a town hall this week with Rob Gould and Mina talking about Data Fest this year. If you're interested in learning more, it's happening at 3 o'clock. There is a link. It's not showing up on the slide, but when we post the slides after the webinar, you should be able to click on that link. There's also lots of different advertisements that have gone out for this. So hopefully you can find an email somewhere if you're on one of those groups. And then the other click there. Our next webinar, we're working on the schedule for this spring, but the next one will be February 21st at 4 o'clock. So if you want to just put a little save the date in your calendar. And then Shu-Min, if you want to move the slide ahead there. And just, of course, coming up here, if you want to hit it again, USCOTS 2023, we are deep in planning for USCOTS. There is the link. At this point, they're just opened the call for posters and beyond. Shu, if you want to click the slide. Those proposals are due Sunday, January 29th. If you would like feedback, there is still an opportunity to submit an abstract after that. The final deadline is March 5th, but it's always nice to get a little feedback from the session organizers on your poster submission. So apologize, I got a pop-up coming in here. So just keep that deadline in mind if you're thinking about doing something. And let's get to the webinar. So Shu-Min Liao is an assistant professor of statistics at Amherst College. Her research interests include fully non-parametric theory and methodology, model-free multivariate dependence measures for categorical data, and STEM education research focused on diversity, equity, inclusion, and accessibility topics. And so Shu-Min, I'm going to let you take it away.
Okay, thank you for your introduction, Lee, and also thanks COS and the JSDSE to give me this opportunity to speak here today. Before talking about my Scratch project, let me share a little more about myself so that you may understand why I would come up with such a project. So I am a JDI member of ASA, and then so I share some of my observation and the reflection on the DI issues in this JDI Corner article called At the Rise of the JDI. And then I'm also living with disabilities, and so I'm also a member of CSD. Now, CSD has, we contribute another JDI Corner article titled Disability as Assets and Strengths. I think this is an article worth reading, so if you haven't, I would encourage you to take a look. And we also have a coming webinar this Friday, and then we will talk about transitioning between school and work with disabilities. So I believe this will provide a lot lot of useful information for most educators, for your students. So I hope that you can consider register for that event as well. I also kind of co-organized the course research reading group, and the good news is that Megan and I have already decided we will continue this reading group this year. So please stay tuned for more announcements on that front. And for those of you, because I assume that if you you are here today, you might be, some of you might be very interested in integrating more inclusive pedagogy in your teaching. So I know you probably cannot click the link now, but once the slide is posted, I did co-create some useful resources for inclusive pedagogy and then for JSM last year. So you can take a look at that. And last but not least, I would also like to draw your attention to my recent talk at ICAS 11 and the JMM titled A Code for Being Human in Undergraduate Statistics. Again, in this article, we provide a lot of new or like revisit some old ideas about making how can we make our teaching more inclusive and equitable. So yes, I'm very passionate about inclusive teaching and the DI issue, as you can see. And then the Scratch project here I'm going to talk today is basically one of my efforts on this front. And then since you can easily find many details about this project in the paper, so today I'm decided that I will focus a little more on behind the scenes stories of the project, as well as show you how I really kind of demonstrate this project in my class. Okay, so it's all the way back to summer 2020. I don't know how many of you remember last summer, but what I remember is that was a summer, pandemic just happened and we were so worried, everyone got stuck at home. And then I, like many schools, Amherst also decided to move all our classes online for fall 2020 and spring 2021. So one of my most important mission in summer 2020 is to figure out how to teach an online course, because I have never done that before. And to me, it's two biggest challenge back then is I want to kind of find a way to build a remote learning community, because community building is always a very important role for my teaching. And I feel that a lot of my success is depending on the relationship I built with students in the beginning of the semester. And also, I have never taught coding in remotely. And I also worry that if I cannot stand next to my student, tell them that where they did the right or wrong, what can we do? So I spent a lot of time last summer thinking about how I can overcome those new challenges for my teaching. At the same time, I am a mom with a very, very active boy. So definitely that summer, I definitely also struggle with some balance between family and the work, because in the past summers, I can easily throw my son to a summer camp so that I can have some time to work on my stuff. But for last summer, as you can imagine, that he stay home and then talk with me 24/7, no, not except sleeping time. So honestly, in the beginning, I really just wanted some quiet time. And so I signed up for some online lessons. And then at that time, he was just, beginning interested in some, computer programming. So I just feel that I kind of want to, again, find something to occupy him. And so I signed him up for a Scratch online lesson. And then he said yes, but the conditions I need to sit next to him. And I said, okay, sure. As long as, something can kind of occupy his attention so that I can check my emails, that would be great. So I signed him up for, I think that is half day lesson. And then, but guess what? I sit next to him, but I just found that the lesson was so interesting that it turns out I took the whole lesson with him. So in fact, by the end of that lesson, I learned how to play with Scratch, and I in fact used Scratch to create a interactive birthday card, because my best friend's birthday was coming that time. And then my I got really good feedback from my best friend, because she said she has never received a birthday card which can really dance and sing in front of her. So I kind of feel, yeah, this is a really interesting tool. And then that also kind of started making me thinking that, because I know some, that was a very Scratch, in fact, is a kind of coding tool that, designed by MIT, and they designed that with kids in mind. And then so, which means that when I look at my son, really, you don't really need to explain too much to him. He can just play and start to make a video game. And so I feel that there should be something I can do with it to help my students learn coding. And so initially I was thinking that I will use this to create an introduction and to introduce myself to my students. But then on the way when I created, I realized that I can ask my students to do the same, because it was so fun. And then so that was literally the beginning of this project. So I don't know how many of you try Scratch by yourself before, play with Scratch before. Some of you might learn of it because of your kids. If not now, I in fact want to encourage you. In fact, I want to ask you to try Scratch yourself. And then so it's basically just scratch.mit.edu. And then I want you play for 1 minute or 2. And then so let me see if I might need to see. How can I move back to, because I want to share my, Lee, do you know how I can move back if I want to share another, I want to share the screen for
You probably have to stop sharing this one and then share the screen.
Oh, okay.
You
So
do
stop
want.
sharing first. And then feel free to type like what's you, if you use Scratch before, please kind of tell us what you think about Scratch in the chat. If not, I will encourage you to go to the scratch.mit.edu, and then you will create click. So let me see if I can. No,
I just put the link, I believe, in the chat.
Yeah. Okay, so thank you for that. And so if you go to the website, you will create, click create on the top. And then if you are new for Scratch, automatically will pop up some tutorials. And then so I would encourage you to look at the first tutorial, but basically it's less than 1 minute. Maybe I can try that.
Scratch.
Yes, Scratch. So let me see if I can share that screen. I believe I can. Yeah. So this is the Scratch. So if you click, if you go back, it's like this. And then if you click, let me get out first, because if I sign in, you will not be able to see that. You will create, and then you will see this video. And one great thing about Scratch is they have tons of tutorials. And then so if you want to learn anything, you can easily, they will teach you how to create a video game, how to create a birthday card, how to create an ebook, and those kind of things. There are tons of ideas there. And then so play with it first by just drag, let's say, some block from the left, and then you will see that when you click this, these cat will move, because this is a move block. And so you will ask them that, you can change, like here, if I want to it move a little faster, I can say 20. And then so if 20, it will move a little faster. And besides move, there are different kind of actions you can do. For example, you can add sound, which is the pink block. And then you can also do like a look. You can change, like you can make it say something, like say hello, or say something like that. And then so play with it. Basically, it's really like a self-expository. You really don't need a lot of instruction unless you want to try something specific. And then, so I will let you try that for 1 minute, just play with it. And then once you try it, I hope some of you will share what you feel in the chat. Do you like it? Do you feel that it's easy to use, or it's still very confusing? Which, well, if it's only 1 minute. But I hope that at least you feel that it's kind of inviting. Okay, while you try that, I can share my sharing first, and then we'll go back to the slides. Okay, so let's say play slide. Okay, so you can keep trying, and then, but I just want to talk a little bit about, why Scratch. So because of that very good first experience with my son, I start to wonder that what is how other people teach coding. Because for me, honestly, I always feel that as long as I prepare my material, organize them very well, my student can see a lot of examples. As long as I explain the syntax well, they should be able to learn. So that was my old way to teach R. We use R in our STEP courses. And then, but the Scratch making me wonder, is there a different way to teach coding? And then through some self-studies, and then I realized that in fact there are some text-based coding, like the R is text-based coding because you need to write syntax, and Java, C, those are text-based coding. But on the other hand, in recent years, in fact, a lot of visual block-based coding language have been developed, and those are being used, in fact, widely in computer science, especially intro computer science courses. And then, so just to name a few, like Harvard CS50, they in fact teach Scratch before they move to C. Berkeley CS10, they teach Snap before they move to Python. And then Kodak or their computer science principal course, they in fact use droplet blocks before they move to the JavaScript. And one article particularly draw my attention is the one done by Dan and his co-authors at Carnegie Mellon, because they, in fact, Alice 3 is a block-based coding language, and it's housed at the CMU. And then they intentionally kind of do a comparative study. So in their introduction to computer science course, they split two sections. One section purely just learn Java. The other sections, they will learn Alice 3 first before they move things to Java. And then the surprising finding after 2 years of study is that they found that the students who in the section which learn both means they will have less time to practice Java. In fact, significantly outperform the other section which only learn Java in the same Java final exam. And then I just feel that that's really interesting, because originally I thought that if I introduce more programming language to my students, they might get confused. And then, but clearly that might not be the case. Okay, so that's why I start to design this Scratch introduction project. And then, so again, you can maybe see, let me see if I can go back. Yes. So if you copy and paste this link, and then you can kind of access my project directly. So basically it's similar to what you see a few minutes ago, but now it's the content is about me. And then so one really good feature of Scratch is there is a remix function. So if you click the link and then I think a Scratch MIT.edu project and 4182182001. I'm sorry, I think it's easier to do this way than stop the screen sharing. And then if you click a link, you should be able to see a button called remix. So basically, if you click on remix, you can copy the entire project, my project, and then you can start to revise it and become yours. And so you can try to see if you can remix my project and then just play with it. You can see if you can change your name easily, if you can change my photo to your photos, and then you can change the theme, because when you click all those icons on the right side, they even do different things. So you can play with it and then see, change the contents to yours. And so that was what I kind of, I send this to my students as part of a welcome email, usually 1 week or 2 weeks before the semester starts. And then they will start to get to know me even before the semester starts. And I will ask them to think about it, just play with it, basically just play with it, and then see if they can kind of create a project to introduce themselves to their class. And then, so I think this one I do want to start sharing. So after my students play with those, Scratch for a couple of, usually it's 1 week, but if they start earlier, before the semester starts, they will probably spend time with it for up to 2 or 3 weeks. And then by the end of first week, I will transition them to R. So my students will only play with Scratch for 1 week. And then so in the first lab, usually on Friday, this is what I will do. I will show them. So let me stop sharing first. And then let me share all these first. And then share the screen again. Okay, so I will sign in this time because I need to sign in. So that's in order to see my stuff and my stuff here. And then so this is another project I created in order to help my students see the connection. And then so first I will try to tell them that, you can also use Scratch to do calculations. And then so for example, I can say calculation and ask me to enter A. So I will say A is 3, and then they will now ask me B. So at B is whatever 8, and then click. And then so they ask what is C, and then that is 11. Okay. And then so I show them this first, and I tell them that in fact in R, that is just equivalent to you assign a number to a variable A and assign another number to variable B, and eventually C can be A plus B. So kind of explain about like the concept of a variable first. And then I will try to, and then after that, I will start to introduce some basic R functions using these. So first I will tell them that because in our class, we use the Mosaic package. So first, almost in all activity, they need to require or require the Mosaic package first. And then so they can imagine that they are using a package, a block called require, and then they will enter a package named Mosaic. And so it's equal to the R code that is require parentheses and the Mosaic. And then so I will basically go through all those very simple, like a help block, which now will become help function in R. M summary block will become M summary function in R. Then after talk about the function, I start to talk about like, the bring in a little more syntax like a tally. Tally is the one in Mosaic package is the one which will create the table for you. And so I started to talk about like those syntax. So imagine that you have a block like this, and so that you can decide the variable name, decide the data set name. So eventually what I really try to do is try to students to see the connection between blocks and function, as well as, other things. And so they have already played with Scratch for a few weeks. And now that transition will kind of become very, very intuitive to them. Okay, and then now I realize the time flies. So we only have 2 minutes left. So I think, let me see if I can. Okay, so I think the main purpose is to show you how I demonstrate, how I introduce these projects in my class. And again, you can find the project guideline, the resources, and a video, in the paper. And then we also have some findings, because we do notice that there are some disparities in students coding self-efficacy. So you can see that students in fact start from different place in terms of coding. And then what we found the most interesting is the most kind of disadvantaged group is not new learner, which is the first one, are novices. In fact, it's our progressors. So second group, the yellow one, because if you look at this group, they kind of move upward slowly, or even slower than some are novices, because you can see that within 4 weeks, some are novices has already catch up, but some of them remain progressing at the end of the semester. So I think in the paper, basically, I try to kind of hopefully people can notice that the really disadvantaged group might not be the new users. They are the users who learned it before but didn't have a good experience. And so that we probably, this is a group of students we need to pay the most attention to, because they might need to unlearn the mistake they have already made before they can move forward. And of course, we also find that this project really help build a community remotely, because most students say that they get to know us before semester start, and then they also get to know their peers. And as one student said, that it's really nice to meet classmates at their own pace. Okay, so here are some questions I kind of prepare for you, because I want to kind of hope to ask you, are you ready to create new knowledge and a new design from the margins? So this is in fact from the previous US CUT keynote speakers, and then because they feel that we really need to design and think about our teaching with the least privileged students in mind. And also, are you ready to go ahead and board your best students? Because in fact, I feel that in my own teaching, I always feel that I teach in the middle, but usually even though I teach in middle, it still benefits the students who like more privileged students better. So in the past couple of years, I have already tried to challenge myself, can I target students who really need help? And also kind of hopefully we can all kind of work toward a growth mindset. Okay, so I think that's all for today. I don't know if we have time for questions, but I will be here.
No, we can definitely take a couple minutes for questions. It doesn't shut off or anything at 4:30. We did have a couple in the chat while you were talking. Thank you to those of you who posted links and kind of helped me out a little bit. I will reiterate that the slides themselves will be posted on CauseWeb, and so you can go and click in the links later on if you missed some of the ones during the webinar. There was a comment that Scratch looks like a good on-ramp for coding for younger and not so young students. And then there was a question about, what do you click to make the instructions executable? I can click on either my attached instructions and the cat moves. Is that how you make it run? Like, how do you actually get the instructions to execute as you drag them over?
I think the most important, of course, they can play with a cat if they want, but that is really not what I want. What I really want is I want them to remix my my introduction project. So I will not run there. There's no cats running, but they are indeed they will have some animation in the projects I create, so students can play with. There's more than one way to do their Scratch project. So I will not. So basically, I encourage them to be creative, and then as you can imagine, that some students really just start to mimic what I did. But on the other hand, I definitely have some students who really build a really beautiful Scratch project. I have a student who, in fact, they build that and kind of create instruments which you can sing the song when you click certain buttons. And then so I feel that students, in fact, because he was talking about like his music background, and he just created something like that. So it's really fun to watch those projects. And then, but again, the main requirement is to mix my project. If they just mimic it, it's totally fine. But they are allowed to create the project layer way.
Okay. What is the background typically of the students that you're doing this with?
This is a very good question. So this class is our intermediate stats. So it's like a second level of stat course. And but we have already drawn a lot of like students from our department. So this class is particularly challenging in the sense that my students' coding background will be very diverse. So as you can see from the figure I share, there probably 1/3 of the students who has never seen R. 1/3 has already taken our intro stats and has already have some R experience, but they didn't learn well previous time, because when I asked how comfortable they feel about using R, they will rate like below 5 out of 10. But on the other hand, 1/3 of students who are really good already. And then so this is a class usually we feel is very challenging, especially in the beginning of the semester, that you have students in like in terms of coding that in different places. And so that's in fact making me feel that in the past, I will usually kind of provide a lot of resources, a lot of like art tutorials created by my former students, and a lot of like homework on that front. But then I realized that those kind of learning by yourself by going through example approach really only benefits students who are already good at coding. And for students who are afraid of coding, or the students who are in the middle class, the R progressors, they are the ones who had the bad experience. So they have already kind of told themselves that I'm not good at coding. And so you kind of need to find I feel that I need to find a way to convince them first they are good at coding, because I found that as long as you can kind of encourage your student confidence on that front, they usually can perform much better afterwards. Yeah.
Okay. If there are other questions, I think that kind of covered all the questions. We got a lot of thank yous. You can scroll through and look at those. And a little party emoji there.
I see it. Thank you very much.
All right. Well, thank you very much for sharing this. This was really great. I'm going to go play with it a little bit, actually. So thank you to Shu-Min Liao for sharing this. And I hope everyone enjoys the beginning of their semester. If it hasn't begun yet, well, good for you. This feels like mine's already going a mile a minute. So thank you.
Yeah, again, I didn't include any references because I figure you can find all those in the paper. And then again, you can find the project guidelines, videos, tutorial in the paper. If you have any questions, any suggestions, any feedback, please feel free to email me. And I'm going to kind of, because now last year, in fact, I kind of play this idea with our intro stats. So now the students, in fact, is quite the same, because they have majority of them have never seen R. So I kind of didn't go through the data yet, but I think I will have some findings on that front to share at US COT this year.
Okay. And just one last reminder, the slides and the recording will be on causeweb.org separately, so you can actually click on links shortly after the end of this webinar. Give it 24 hours, but yeah, they should be up. All right. Bye, everybody. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, everyone.